move to our first beatitude tonight. We've already read it. We'll just read it again real quick. Notice what it says. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is, everybody say is the kingdom of heaven. Now notice this first beatitude, what does it deal with? It deals with our attitude regarding our position before God. It deals with our attitude regarding our position before God. Now let's talk about this term here, this poor in spirit. Well, to be poor in spirit means to be humble. Oftentimes this same word, if you look it up in the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible called the Septuagint, when it translates this word, or when it uses this same word, oftentimes it's pitted against the word pride. So if we want to understand what it means to be poor in spirit, it's not talking about being economically poor. It's to have an attitude that's completely opposite of pride. How many know all of us, the first thing we had to do when we came into the kingdom was bow our knee before the Lord and submit our will to His will. That took humility, didn't it? It took us saying, Lord, I don't have the right to live my life the way that I want to live my life. I acknowledge that you're God and that you call the shots. And I willingly bow my knee before you. I lay pride aside and I realize that I am poor. I am bankrupt without you. How many know that's how we need to view ourselves before God? We have nothing to give. We have nothing to offer. We are poor in spirit without Him. And then remember, we've got some great text. Remember, Jesus leaves. He empties Himself. He becomes poor. He leaves the riches of heaven, Paul will tell us. So that what? So that we can be truly rich and experience the rich blessings of the kingdom, because He too was willing to humble Himself. So if our Master has humbled Himself, guess what? That sets a pattern for us, right? We've got to be poor in spirit. If we were to look up the noun form of this Greek word, this is the Greek word that's translated into English as a beggar. This is how we see ourselves before the Lord. Not that we are beggars before Him, but again, we're talking about what? We're talking about perspective. This is where it all starts for us, that we realize that without Him we are poor. We have nothing. And the good news is He takes us right there, doesn't He? That's exactly the point that He wants us to reach, because that is, again, where He will take us at. Now, again, we talked about Qumran. I want to give you another slide. Let's talk about the poor in spirit at Qumran. There's a manuscript there. It's a fascinating manuscript, actually. We call it 1QM. 1 stands for Cave 1. Everybody say 1. Q stands for Qumran. Everybody say Qumran. The M stands for Milchamah. Don't worry about it. You thought I was going to get you to say it. I should have seen what would happen. But Milchamah in Hebrew means war. We call it in English the war scroll. And it describes this great showdown that Qumran, that the Essenes looked ahead to, that God was going to come to them, the community of the sons of light, and lead them into battle against the sons of darkness and then set up His kingdom. It's a fascinating scroll. You can read it. It's available in English. But this same phrase, poor in spirit, is found right here in this manuscript. In this scroll, the community, the Essenes, describe themselves as the sons of light. Paul uses that term. Remember, what does Jesus say? You're to be salt and you're to be light. You're to be children of the light. Well, there was another group that lived out at Qumran that this is how they referred to themselves, as the children of light, or the sons of light, who are poor in spirit. So again, this group that met out, again, in the wilderness of Judea, down on the banks of the Dead Sea, they referred to themselves as the community that is poor in spirit. So just as being physically poor in Israel would have forced you into a state of complete reliance upon God, guess what? The spiritually poor individual realizes their continual need to rely upon God. How many know we're still there? Doesn't matter how long we've been walking with the Lord. I need Him as much today as I did 20 years ago when I asked Him to come into my heart and life. I do. You do. You know that. So again, this is what it means to be poor in spirit. It should describe the daily life, the continual lifestyle and attitude of every believer in the kingdom. Now, it's almost certain that Jesus is referring to a passage from Isaiah chapter 61. If you want to write it down, Isaiah 61, verse number 1 is the basis for this first beatitude. In fact, Jesus is going to refer to this passage when he's teaching in the Nazareth synagogue. Okay? I've got a picture of a reconstruction here for you of a first century synagogue. It's not really a first century synagogue, thus the word replica. Everybody say replica. Yeah, it's just a replica, a reconstruction of what a synagogue would have looked like in Nazareth from the period. So this is the outside. You can see the modern buildings there in behind it, the apartments. And then, Jamie, we got one more slide. This is the interior. And you can see the columns there. You can see the windows letting light in. And then you can see the benches. Everybody pat your pew and say, thank God for you. Yeah, I know you complain about them sometimes because I do too. Hey, it's hard to be a UK fan and sit in this sanctuary. You know what I'm talking about? But hey, it's part of the blessings of the kingdom, right? But hey, it beats that. But again, this is a replica of the synagogue that might have once stood there in Nazareth. Now, notice what happens if you look from Luke. We'll find that the attendant, Jesus goes into the synagogue, the attendant gives him the scroll. Okay? And it was customary, still is, on the Sabbath, on Saturday morning to go in, and a person is chosen to read. And they don't just get up and say, man, there's got to be a good text here somewhere, and start thumbing through the Bible. They don't just hop up on a soapbox and say, ha-ha, now's my chance. No, there was a set reading. There still is set readings. That's good. Really is. Good, good, good. Keeps us balanced. So what happens is Jesus goes in, and someone else read from the law, or maybe Jesus did as well. And then after you would have a reading from the first 5 books of the Bible, you would have a passage from the prophets that was associated or tied into that reading. So the big Isaiah scroll comes in, and it's plopped down on the table. It's huge. And it was unrolled to the passage that was set for that reading. And in the sovereign plan of God, the very day that Jesus is called upon to read a passage from Isaiah, it's a passage in Isaiah 61 that screams Messiah. It's a passage that's all about the upcoming appearance of the Messiah. And it's after Jesus reads this that everybody gets aggravated because he says, today I tell you this scripture is fulfilled. And then they take him out to the brow of the hill and attempt to stone him to death and throw him down the hill. But it wasn't God's time, and he walks right through their midst. So that is all the basis for Isaiah 61. Let me read it to you. It says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to do what? To bring good news, or the gospel, or good tidings to guess who? The poor. Everybody say the poor. Yes. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound. So again, Jesus' reference to being poor here describes the continual lifestyle of members in the kingdom of heaven. We are bankrupt without him.